Small note before we begin this podfic. This fanfiction is, as of now, uncompleted. Last time it was updated was August 2nd, 2022. On another note, this is a continuation / alternate universe ending of Before My Heart Gives Out. I have also done that one, so I suggest you go ahead and listen and or read that one before you go on to this one. As My Heart Gives Out by Kira 18 on AO3. Summary. Alternative ending to my book, Before My Heart Gives Out. I suggest reading it before starting this one. Spoilers to the original. Izuku survives after getting kidnapped by the League of Villains. However, is he really safe? And for how long? What would happen if he were to live? Chapter 1. A last-ditch effort. The world tilted and morphed, yet never settled. His heart ached, his skull throbbing as he tried to tune back into his surroundings. Dust and dirt caked the air around him, making it incredibly hard to breathe. Something heavy was weighing down on his chest. The crushing pressure made it impossible for his chest to expand. He tried to move. The actions brought intense, overwhelming pain, erupting from his leg, from a wound he could not identify. He couldn't feel his arm. A desperate part of him hoped it was from the boulder currently restricting his blood flow. His breathing came in heaves, panic rising, almost suffocating with its intensity. It surprised him, really, that it was breathing at all. The third bomb was smaller than the others. It seemed its sole purpose was to take out the warehouse, to take him out. He could taste copper on his tongue. It made him almost wrench. Tears sputtering to unseeing eyes. A groan escaping his lips as he tried once again to lift the boulder, caging him in. His limbs felt heavy, unresponsive. His entire body burned. Can you hear me? The soreness in his head amplified as he tried to listen. The new presence brought overwhelming relief. The voice was familiar, achingly so. You're going to be okay. We're going to get you out of there. Do you hear me? And as if to calling someone else, Uraraka, I need you to move this boulder. The weight, crushing him to the ground, disappeared, as whatever was holding him down was floated into the air. A new kind of pain erupted in its place as the blood rushed to his legs. Something pressed into his wound, his vision turning white for a moment, overtaking the previous darkness. Shit, the hero hissed from his place above him. You need to stop moving, okay? This is gonna hurt. Aizawa? His throat felt raw, the word sandy and stinging. It's okay. You're going to be alright. I just need to keep applying pressure. Shouting to someone behind him, he continued. Call an ambulance. His voice cracked, shattering his composure. What do we... Shinsou was here too. What were they all doing here? His mind felt foggy, detached. Help me get him out of here. The structure isn't going to hold for long. Without truly registering his words, he felt two pair of armpits wrap around him. They lifted him, the movements bringing unfiltered agony, racing through his entire body, and lighting his nerves on fire. Something wet dripping onto his forehead. His mind distinctly noted that it started to rain. That was good, right? It meant the fire would disappear. He wanted it to. They walked slowly, carefully, trying their hardest not to jostle him. However, before they could make it out of the rubble and into the open street, a rumble sounded around them. The ground shook, pebbles vibrating from the resting place on their feet. A great, massive boom resounded through the air as a figure crashed into the building statued right next to them. From the dust and smoke emerged none other than All Might. The man looked worse for wear, blood sluggishly oozing from a wound on his shoulder. Dirt and grime covered him, making him look almost deranged. Another crash was heard as a new figure joined the scene. His presence alone sent shivers running down Shinsou's spine. His body freezing, as if his limbs were no longer his own to control. "This isn't good. We need to get out of here," Aizawa hissed, readjusting his grip until almost all of Izuku's weight was resting on Shinsou. "Take him to the others. I need to make sure they don't see you." With that, the man took off, using his capture weapon to launch himself in the direction of the fight. Izuku was heavier than he expected. Or maybe it was his own body that felt weak. As he staggered across the rubble, he couldn't help his gaze from straying towards the battle taking place near them. The crowd had formed in the distance, as if following the match. Like all hero fights, the danger didn't seem to deter the audience. All Might and the villain were fighting with an intensity that rivaled the greatest wars. Their punches created whirlwinds, shaking the very earth with their movements. Every hit echoed through the raveled field like thunder. Craters formed in their wake, remnants of a fight between titans. It felt surreal to watch this. Two men with powers rivaling the gods, fighting amongst the mortals. The hair on his arms stood on end as the battle raged between the two entities. It made his veins throb with a constant state of alertness. It felt as if he was never meant to witness the immense display of power, as if the event was momentaneous, yet forbidden to his earthly eyes. He couldn't let it consume him, though. Couldn't let the sight suck him in, swallowing him completely. The fate of the boy leaning against him rested on his ability to keep moving. So he did. He pushed through the urge to remain there, as if stuck in time, and marched forward, each step feeling heavier than the last. Kirishima and Todoroki rushed to their aid. However, before they could get to them, another rumble reverberated through the ground beneath their feet. A distant shout of, "Look out!" desperate and horrified, sounded behind him. The voice was only drowned by the rain and the shark wave that came right at them. The impact split the concrete, separating them from the other students, almost knocking him down, had he not braced himself for it. Too busy trying to remain upright, he didn't see the wave of shrapnel and rubble coming right at them. Something caught his side and pushed. The next thing he knew, he was tumbling down, skidding across the ground, skin scraped raw as he rolled across the dirt. Wheezing as the breath was knocked out of him, he didn't give himself a moment to rest, his body already moving to get up, to check on Izuku, make sure he was okay. The first thing his mind registered was All Might's truant position. His hand was held high, fists pointing at the sky, as he heaved. Aizawa, standing a couple feet next to him. The crowd roared, loud and overwhelming to his ears. Yet even as the noise heightened and the chaos regained, he could focus on nothing else. It felt like they were the only people frozen in the bustling crowd, standing there, as if in the eye of a hurricane. He watched, as though in slow motion, as blood spurtled from Izuku's lips, a soundless cry, splitting his throat as his knees gave out. The crimson red seemed to draw him in, until it was all he could see, as the boy's body crumbled to the ground like a rag doll whose strings had been cut. The sight would forever be engraved in his mind, a picture straight out of his nightmares. He felt hollow, unmoved, as he realized just what had happened. A metal rod was sticking out of Izuku's chest, his soot-covered costume rapidly darkening with blood. Izuku had pushed him out of the way. The teen had put himself bodily between him and the incoming threat. With a detached kind of horror, he saw a small smile stretch across Izuku's features, as if the teen was pleased, satisfied. His body moved as his mind reeled, limbs feeling sturdier than his psyche as he stumbled towards the fallen boy's body. This was not happening. It couldn't be. The rain was beating down on them, a tangible curtain forming around them, blocking out the rest of the world. All he could hear was Izuku's faltering breath. All he could see was his pale, broken body lying on the ground before him. "No, No, stay with me. Where's the ambulance? He screamed at no one and everyone, wide, hysterical eyes looking up at his gathered classmates. Uraraka had a hand to her mouth, stifling a sob as she hurtled into Ida's side. Bakugo was shouting at someone on his phone. His rage reverberated through Shinsou himself, a perfect picture of the storm that brewed within him. With delicate, tentative movements, he cradled the boy's upper body, letting Izuku's head rest on his folded legs. Trembling fingers came up to push the teen's hair out of his eyes, tears already spilling down his cheeks. It felt wrong to touch him, as if at any second they would break, shatter, along with the boy in his arms like fragile glass. Hitoshi. Izuku's chest convulsed, trying in vain to expand, and failing miserably. Why? His voice broke. Why would you do that? And he knew, even then, that Izuku wouldn't have ever given it a second thought. It didn't stop him from feeling as though a part of his soul was crumbling into dust. I'm not sorry. Blood was pooling on the ground under them now. The liquid mixed with the rain and seeped into his clothes. The cold he was feeling had nothing to do with it, however. Don't talk. You're gonna be all right. You're gonna be fine. Do you hear me? His voice was breathy, hysterical. Everything's gonna be fine. His heart felt like it was being shredded into pieces, washed away with the downpour, along with the tears that slid down his face, indistinguishable from the rain. It's okay. The words were broken and faltering. The pain was now evident on the teen's features, his eyebrows scrunching with agony. Yet his pale green eyes were clearer than he'd ever seen them. I was never meant to live this long. Stop! You're not going to die. Do you understand? You're not allowed to die on me. You promised you wouldn't. He couldn't bring himself to say it out loud. They had promised each other, all those nights ago, in his room. They had so much left to do. They were supposed to have more time. You promised. He repeated, feebly, another sob racking his body, as he clutched desperately at his fading love, afraid he would disappear at any moment. He could hear Yaoyorozu and Kirishima openly crying now. Bakugo was silent, however, crouched near them on Izuku's right, his phone held loosely in his hand, as if he had forgotten about it. Where are the medics? Come on, someone go get them already! What's taking? A touch to his cheek made him falter, gaze immediately drawn back to the boy, shaking in his hold. The touch was feeble, as light as a feather, surely leaving a blood trail in its wake. It brought warmth to his chest, even as it threatened to tear him apart. Hey. Izuku's eyes were somehow meeting his own now. The calm green pulled him into their depth, as if by a trance. It's raining. Hitoshi. A small, fragile smile stretched the boy's face, bloodied, yet no less precious. He could feel it, the last remnants of life tethering to the boy, waking the earth, unraveling like loose threads on a torn tapestry, as brittle as powdery sand, slipping through his fingers. I always hoped it would rain. The pain he felt, shaking into his heart, was unbearable, making him want to howl into the night, scream at the world for this unfairness, for this cruelty. No. He pulled the boy closer to his chest, head burrowing into the boy's neck, wanting nothing more than to be closer to him, to have him open his eyes and talk to him. Please, no. They're here. A harsh, desperate sound shouted from behind them. What are you waiting for? Get him up now! They're here, damn it! Bakugo's desperate was pitiable, his eyes wild as he screamed. The rain beating down on them made the boy's hair fall over his eyes, making him look almost deranged. His words sounded distant to Shinsou's ears nonetheless. Kid, you need to let him go. His mind barely registered the meaning of the stranger's words, arms, unconsciously, tightening around the boy in his arms. We'll do our best to take care of him. We just need you to step away first. Hey, man. You can go with him, but you have to let them take care of him. Yeah? Just let them save him. Kirishima cooed, softly, voice breaking with emotion. His words snapped him out of his daze. Taking it as their cue to get moving, the medics swarmed around them, lifting Izuku onto a stretcher in a moment, moving faster than Shinsou's mind could keep up with its added state. Was he in shock? Was this why he felt so detached? So disconnected? Where? The whisper sounded broken, even to his own ears. Himino General Ward, let's go. It was there, under the heavy rain, cold and unforgiving, that Shinsou almost lost everything he loved. Exhaustion weighed down on him, heavy, as he gazed at the ambulance lights, getting dimmer in the distance. Gathering himself, in whatever rationality he could salvage, he got up. Would he lose his everything still? Was it wrong to hope that for once, life wouldn't be so cruel? They were supposed to have more time. What happened next, Shinsou couldn't even begin to tell. His mind felt foggy and unfocused as he followed along with the movements and actions around him. The hospital was packed. People swarmed the space, moving with purpose and direction as they worked. A pair of hands gripped his shoulders, steering him through the crowd and into a vacant waiting room. The touch was gentle, tentative, as they guided him into an empty chair. Dark eyes stared at him. A mere image of the worry and anguish he felt was reflected in the man's gaze. Aizawa was covered in soot and dust, clothes a little torn, but ultimately he was thankfully uninjured. The metal handles of the chair were cold to the touch, sending shivers down his spine as they made contact with his skin. The unexpected feeling seemed to break something within him, like a rubber band that had been stretched taut. He snapped back to reality abruptly and sharply. Everything was suddenly too loud to his ears, too bright and too sharp to his senses. His chest constricted as his lungs worked on overload to expand. Looking down, all he could see was red, red, red. It coated his clothes, his arms, his fingers, crusted and sluggish, and his mind couldn't help but bring him back to Kamino, to the cold body he held within his arms. He could smell it in the smoke that clung to his dirty shirt, feel it in the blood that seeped into the seams of his pants and slid beneath his fingernails. It made everything feel so wrong. He couldn't describe it in any other way. His hands were rubbing together now. He didn't know when he started doing it. Fingers scraping against his skin roughly, as if to dispel the blood and make it disappear. The action only seemed to make it go redder. Hands, so very gently, gripped onto his hands. Then, stilling them with the pressure, making Shinsou's body freeze. Hey, it's okay, it's alright. Aizawa soothed, voice low. Hey, it's okay, it's alright. Aizawa soothed, voice low as if talking to a wounded animal. He felt something wet land on his arm, and vaguely wondered if it was still outside. I, always hoped it would rain. Looking up, he was met with the white, pale towels of the hospital ceiling. Looking up, he was met with the white, pale towels of the hospital ceiling. It's raining. Hitoshi. He whispered to himself. He didn't notice Aizawa's eyes narrow in confusion and worry, nor did he hear Kirishima's sharp intake of breath. It's only when he looked back down, eyes blurred and damp, that his mind connected the dots. Trembling fingers rose to meet his cheeks, startling as he found them wet. And he had been crying this whole time. It's all right. It's gonna be okay. Somehow, it felt like the man wasn't saying that just for Hitoshi's sake. Around them, Kirishima, Todoroki, Uraraka, and Yaoyorozu had all taken up seats. Ida, however, was pacing the room, muttering intangible words to himself. Bakugo was crouched in one of the room's corners, hands buried in his hair, quiet and calm. His eyes, however, spoke of a burning storm and an raging inferno. One thought seemed to collectively go through their minds then. One thought alone. A doctor stepped into the room then. Blood coated the front of his scrubs. His face was serious as he spoke. Anyone here from Midoriya Izuku? Okay, wow, you really want to put us through the ringer again. Thank you for that, thank you! I do want to say, there is slight differences between this chapter and the last chapter from before, otherwise I would have used the same audio and cut myself some time, but no, unfortunately the only thing I could reuse was the vocal lines, because, unfortunately, I'm not crying. I didn't cry this whole time. Oh my god, shocker, you wanna know why? You wanna know why I'm not crying? I'm numb. I'm genuinely numb. One, I know he's not gonna die, so I'm not as emotional, right? Two, I've already experienced this once, and, I've healed, and as, you hear my voice going like this, right? No tears are going out. No tears are going out, right? Okay? I've been like this all day. My family, no, literally my family is so weirded out, right? Because literally, we were in a car, me and my mom was like, hey, it's gonna rain tomorrow. And then I started tearing up. I'm like, it's gonna rain tomorrow. Okay. Rain. And my mom's like, what the fuck? I'm like, you remember when you walked into my room and I was sobbing on the floor, hitting the fucking ground with my chair upside down? And I just told you he died? And then you were looking at me confused and I said fan fiction and then you walked out? He died in the rain. And then my mom was like, oh, okay. So weird. God, it's gonna rain tomorrow. I'm probably gonna cry tomorrow. No, I cried pretty much a lot of yesterday, a lot of today, and I'm probably gonna cry tomorrow as well. So I have no tears left to cry anymore, okay? I do have moments where, like, I'm about to cry and tear up, but, like, the tears don't flow, and it's annoying, because it's like, I want to cry and I need to cry, but there is no tears coming out. But, yeah. There were slight differences, like, for example, the Izuku's hand being cut off seems to not be in this one, because in the original one, it's like, oh yeah, like, he hoped the hand was still there. And in this one, it doesn't mention that. It just says, he couldn't feel his arm. Not necessarily saying that it wasn't there. And obviously it doesn't mention his arm being cut off. Instead of saying Hitoshi's heart, gets, thrown. It's small little small stuff that you would not notice unless you're sitting here like me. I'm sitting here and I had the original audio pulled up and this one. Specifically because I kept pulling out the dialogue. Because I did a really, really good job with voice acting because I was crying during that and it was just raw emotion and it was literally me mourning, so I wanted to reuse that. At least some of them. Some of them were mine because I feel like, okay, I could probably do a little bit better. But for the most part, I reused just the dialogue. Everything else is re-recorded. As you could tell, my voice is not as fucked. But yeah, I'm happy to be doing this, and as I mentioned before in the beginning, this still only has 10 chapters, and last time it was updated was a year and a half ago. So keep in mind, it could be a while till the next one gets uploaded. It could be never. It just, keep that in mind. Also keep in mind that just because this is an alternative ending does not mean it's a happy one, right? Major character death is still listed as a tag, so Izuku's still gonna die, I guess, unless Kira 18 wants to pull a 380 on us and have Hitoshi die instead, and wants to pull the first to die at the end, where Hitoshi risks his life and gives his freaking organs to Izuku for Izuku to live another day. Please don't do that, Kira 18, if you're listening. Please don't. Don't take my ideas. Please no. No. But yeah. So who knows what's gonna happen in the future. Izuku's probably still dying, let's be honest. I don't see a way for him not to die unless Eri can do something. But then again, I don't know if Eri would be able to do something. I think Eri might be able to do something. So hopefully that major character death gets changed. But that's it for now. I know this is a slightly long note. For those who are listening to this and haven't listened to the first part, what are you doing? Go listen to the first part. I know it's lengthy, I know it's long, I know it's 32 chapters of just 20-minute videos each, but trust me, it is good. It is good. It is a good fanfic. Like, 100% recommend. It's in my kudos. I have it downloaded in case, like, AO3 goes down and I want to reread stuff while AO3 is down. Or, AO3, I don't want to say gets shut down, but, like, for some reason it gets the fic deleted or whatever, right? I have it saved just in case. Specifically for when, AO3 is down for maintenance or for a prolonged period of time. But I have it downloaded, I have kudos, I have it bookmarked. It's my public bookmark. I have some that are not public because sometimes I just don't want you guys to know what I'll be reading, okay? Not that it's bad, it's just like, I'm ashamed to like it. Like, it's like, this is really shitty. It's really shitty writing. I'm ashamed to like it. Private. Private bookmark. But for the most part, most of my bookmarks are, like, public. I think I only have a few that are private, because again, sometimes it's like I like it so much because of the plot and only the plot, because the pacing, the everything else is shit, right? But yeah, so please go check out the original, leave a kudos, leave a comment. Kira 18, thank you so much for allowing me to podfic both of them. I very much appreciate this, and I love your writing style, and I'm probably gonna check out some of your other writing, other fics and other works if you have any other, when I'm on my road trip tomorrow, because I'm going on a road trip tomorrow. So great. I'm probably gonna cry in the car as the rain is falling into the car and we're riding off. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna do that. That's gonna be fun. But as always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.